Chapter 4. WASP. Friday, November 1st, 1991. Virgil's back ached from the belt the night before, but he refused to let that slow him down. By the time he dared venture into the kitchen, his father had left for work. Virgil scoured the fridge, retrieving a half-gallon carton of milk with the face of a missing girl from Oregon plastered across the side panel. She felt familiar, and looked to be about the same age as him, he thought. How sad. Virgil turned on the big television built into a custom cabinet in the corner of the kitchen. He watched an episode of Peter Pan and the Pirates as he ate a bowl of Addams Family cereal, which promised flavor he would scream for. His show cut to a commercial, so Virgil started channel surfing. He paused on an international news story featuring crop circles. Virgil didn't understand what the newscaster said, but the beautiful geometric shapes spoke for themselves. Virgil muted the TV, engrossed by the video footage until the program moved on to an unrelated story. The house was otherwise silent. The school bus would arrive in about 20 minutes, but he had no intention of attending class. He saw public education for the shit show it really was, and would spend the day at his job instead. Getting to work required an hour-long skateboard ride in each direction, but he was motivated to sacrifice for the knowledge of computers and networking he'd gain. As he scraped the bottom of his bowl, a public service announcement featuring Bill Cosby played, asking if he'd considered a challenging but rewarding career in teaching. The more he knew, claimed the PSA, the better everyone's life could be. Virgil grabbed his Walkman and departed. The rhythmic clickety-clack of his skateboard wheels was drowned out by the sounds of Nirvana's recently released sophomoric Nevermind album. He hadn't showered and could fully appreciate smells like Teen Spirit. The energy of the music, paired with his suppressed anger, cut time off his trip. He walked confidently through the front door of the IT Career Academy, weaving around the Macintosh and Compaq machines showcased in their retail storefront, and into the corporate training classroom. "Good morning," Tom grinned. His tiny teeth were encased by thick gums, a byproduct of less-than-ideal dental hygiene motivated by a fear of fluoride calcifying his pineal gland. His scruffy beard hung to the center of his chest. Despite all the conspiratorial leanings, his libertarian-minded supervisor was a role model for good male behavior. "Shouldn't you be in school?" "Don't start," Virgil bantered. "What's on the docket today?" "We have a DOS training in a couple of hours. You up for imaging all the machines and making sure they're networked?" "You got it, boss." Virgil moved to the back office and retrieved his Kit and PowerBook 100 laptop, then checked each machine in the classroom to ensure they could connect to the Token Ring network using Microsoft Workgroups. After finishing with the last computer, he moved to an adjacent desk in the back of the classroom and opened Microsoft Mail. Angela was in their computer class at Lake Braddock Secondary School at this moment, and he wanted to reach out and touch her electronically. After waiting for what seemed like a century for her reply, Virgil tried another tactic, remotely accessing the school's network to control the machine Angela was on. He was intimately familiar with the system since he'd helped set it up as part of a pilot program for the school district. "Hey, Tom!" Virgil shouted. "Yeah?" he replied from his rostrum at the front of the class. "Come look at this." The pair stared at Virgil's screen displaying a cryptic message. Black star. Remote access denied. "What does that even mean?" Virgil asked. "I have no idea." "Have you tried to reset the connection?" "Twice." The room filled with the day's adult students. "We'll have to dig in after training." "Who are these guys?" Virgil flicked his blonde hair toward the predominantly testosterone-driven bunch. "Spooks from the farm," Tom smiled. "Where?" "Camp Peary. They're a cohort of trainees from the CIA." As the class launched into firewall circumvention commands, Virgil kept up his own infiltration of the school's network. Everything he tried failed. He was staring at his screen, thinking of another angle when another message arrived. He hadn't initiated any commands, but the text sent a shockwave up his spine. "WASP is going to get you, Virgil." He yanked the serial cable connecting the network LAN to his laptop and slammed the computer's clamshell lid. He scanned the room, but no one was paying attention to him. He thought this might be a prank orchestrated by Tom, but he was busy leading the instruction, and Virgil couldn't imagine how his boss could execute something like this. He stood and retreated to the back office, pacing the small space until Tom arrived during one of their many scheduled bio breaks. "Why'd you leave?" Tom asked. "I need you in there." "Did you set up that message?" Virgil asked. "The Black Star thing?" "No. This one." Virgil opened his laptop and showed his mentor the second, much more personalized message. "That wasn't me," Tom whispered. "Could it be someone from your school?" "Are you kidding?" "Right. They don't know shit from Shinola over there." The bell of their storefront door chimed, and Tom directed Virgil to take a look. His fear reignited at the sight of his father waiting by the front desk. "I can explain," Virgil started, but his father's cold glare made it clear what he expected. Virgil followed him outside without retrieving his belongings. "Get in the goddamn car!" Ronald screamed once they were alone in the parking lot. Virgil hesitated, looking around before opening the door, barely making it into his seat as his father accelerated down the road. "This is unbelievable," Ronald chastised. "The school called and told me you were absent again for the third time this week! Do you have any idea what you've done? I had to leave the most important meeting of my life." Virgil hung his head like he had less than 24 hours earlier. "You're done with this job. Understood? Tomorrow you tender your resignation." His father made the process sound so incredibly impersonal. Virgil chuckled to himself. His smile must have been visible, because Ronald snatched a handful of his son's hair and shook him like a rag doll. Tears of frightened frustration built behind Virgil's eyes. "Is there anything else you want to say?" Virgil shook his head. "You sure? There's nothing else you'll own up to?" Virgil's stomach dropped an instant before his father popped the glove box, allowing a small, double-wrapped Ziploc bag of marijuana to fall into his son's lap. "You're a goddamn doper now?" Ronald mocked. Virgil wanted to explain that it had been a gift from his boss, who correctly promised it'd be a better alternative than Ritalin. Before he could say a word, the hair-pulling recommenced. But this time it ended with his head slamming into the passenger window. After a few miles of silence, his father pulled to the side of the road and unlocked the doors. "I can't believe this shit. Get out and give me 50. Virgil followed his orders, exiting the vehicle and completing the push-ups. He stood and grabbed the car's handle, but it was locked. Ronald cracked the window. "This is the literal end of the road for you, son. I've tried everything to help you. I gave you a home. I sent you to a good school. I put food in your mouth and clothes on your back." Noticeably missing from the list was love. The Lexus burned rubber, leaving a cloud of blue smoke hanging in the midday sunlight. Virgil looked around to get his bearings. He was miles from home. Without his skateboard, the walk would take a while. He'd only traveled a few blocks when something metallic drew his eyes to the sky. Hovering on the horizon less than a mile away was a silver circle. It didn't move like a plane or a helicopter. Virgil watched it intently. Then, without warning, it disappeared. He was lost in thought over the anomalous object as he continued to stroll down the street, so he didn't notice the brown van creeping alongside him. "Everything okay?" asked a large man from the decades-old Dodge covered in dents and dings. The van was dark, with tiny teardrop-shaped windows at the rear of the vehicle. The driver appeared to be in his 40s, had a friendly smile, a chiseled jaw, and a soldierly build like his father. Virgil said nothing. "Do you need a ride?" the man offered. Virgil turned and walked off, staring at his feet the entire time, but the van continued to crawl alongside him. Virgil tucked his hair behind his ears so he could track the man's movement in his peripheral vision, noticing the word Utah on the license plate. As he reached a side street, Virgil sprinted away, but the van lurched forward to follow him. Virgil cut through a small opening in a chain-link fence and into an empty concrete irrigation ditch. His heart was tearing through his chest, and he had to suppress the urge to vomit as he emerged from the terminus of the ditch. He crouched behind some hedges and scanned the area. The van was gone. It took another 2 hours for him to get home as he moved cautiously along the meandering back streets. He crept through the side door of their multi-car garage. His father was gone, having returned to his meeting inside the Beltway. Virgil bumbled to his mother's bedside. Though her body was there, her chemically clouded mind was somewhere else. It was strange to feel so alone in the presence of another person. Virgil racked his brain for a way to de-escalate matters with his father. He wanted to keep his job and prove he was smart enough to find a way out for him and his mother. At least they were both safe. For the moment.